because it also prompts me to realize like, oh, like I'm being like I'm
you
like,
being a nasty boy.
Yeah, I'm burning the environment.
Nasty boy.
Sucking the air out of the room.
Say I'm being a nasty boy.
No, I'm not gonna do
say that.
I not publicly.
If you don't say that, you don't love me.
Cut the mics. Welcome back. This is Not For Everyone, a podcast hosted by a hater and a lover.
Which one are you?
Oh, a hater.
Yeah.
I am a hater through and through.
Okay. Well, I think we're two haters today.
For sure.
Yeah. And who are you?
I'm Justin. I'm Caroline's boyfriend. And yeah, longtime listener, first time podcaster.
That's so true. Wow, I'm so excited. I'm gonna try to be normal, but for sure I won't be.
That's okay. I mean, honestly, I have no idea what normal means on the being a podcaster, so it's gonna be easy to pull one over on me.
I know. I get so nervous anytime. I feel like when I listen to a podcast and like someone's significant other is on, I'm hyper analyzing everything.
Oh, really?
The most judgmental, and like reading everything into their relationship. So
That's kind of sick.
yeah, it's fucked up. Yeah, it's messed up. And the price I have to pay for that is that now I'm nervous being here.
Aw, it's kind of like the video.
It is like our video. Justin was in one and a
smidge
videos. I was so nervous for that. Yeah, I could barely perform. I could barely do my job.
I think it actually made it easier for me because you're so obviously nervous that like I kind of needed to be calmer. Because I wasn't like terrified going in, but it was definitely a weird new thing.
Yeah, you got a lot of chill to you.
Sometimes.
Justin, sweet Justin. Today, yes, this is my boyfriend, Justin. Today we're going to cover, we just thought it'd be fun to have him as a guest on the podcast. Jess's boyfriend, Ryan, was on many episodes ago. He had a very special appearance with a lot of wisdom and insights, and we thought we'd have a couple boyfriend episodes. Jess is taking the week off. She covered for me last week, and she did her Jess Thoughts, so doing a hater hour this week. And I'm sitting here with the chattiest boy on the face of the earth. Man, this boy can talk, and he needs a podcast.
It's true.
He can really talk.
I'm either dead silent or you cannot shut me up. So hopefully the latter.
There's a quote. Can I say the quote from your mom?
Yeah.
There's a quote from your mom that I know. I think that you shared in some like journal she kept with you as kids.
Yeah, she wrote a journal, I think, for my brother and I, and
when you were like
it was like 1 and 2.
Toddlers.
I think there's one, around 3 toddlers.
And what was the entry about you in your mouth?
Well, yeah, apparently, like, even as a young child, I would just talk, and my mom wrote in the journal, essentially, yeah, he talks all day, he never stops. Sometimes I want to ask him, don't you ever get tired of talking? Does your mouth get tired? The answer is no, but it's kind of continued to this day.
I love it. It's very, very sweet, and it's mind-blowing. Yeah, I feel like I need I can get very talkative. I can get kind of hypomanic. I was misdiagnosed as bipolar 2 at one point, mostly urged by my mom. She was like, yeah, you're bipolar. I was like, okay.
She coached you into it.
She did coach me into it, and I walked into a psychiatrist's office, and I was like, well, there's a lot of bipolar in my family. My mom says I'm bipolar. There's no other explanation for my behavior, la, la, la. And the psychiatrist didn't have a lot of due diligence. She was just like, okay, I guess you are.
You confessed to the crime.
I'm a big confessor.
Yeah.
And they treated me, I was medicated for bipolar for like a year or two. Spoiler, I'm not bipolar. I just can get very hyper sometimes, but then I really need the recharge time. I don't know if you need that ever.
It depends. I mean, like if I'm performing for like other people, like this doesn't feel like there are other people.
Because you can be yourself.
Yeah. When it's more of like a performative thing or a public thing, then that's exhausting.
And you're thinking about work, like
where
you have to
stuff.
do like the work face, the work persona, that kind of thing. You mean?
Yeah. Anytime like where you're kind of like you're filtering, you're trying to create a desired effect.
Yeah.
And that's like it just involves a lot of like one might say processing of your affect, of your delivery. You need everything to be be part of like executing a certain intent.
It's a performance. Yeah. It's a performance. That's what I found. Yeah. It's so exhausting about, I don't know, the office jobs I worked. I felt like I was always wearing a mask and like had to perform a certain thing. Even when I was just babysitting, like babysitting is nonstop performance. You are catering an experience to these kids.
What's almost more tiring because like it's so far from your default.
Yeah. Wait, are you making a joke?
It's both a joke and serious.
Oh, okay.
I mean in both ways. Like it's it's difficult anytime like or like if you're presenting to like very senior people and you're trying to cater to like how they see the world, or like alternatively a toddler where it's sort of like you need to entertain them at their level. Meeting somebody at a very different level is hard.
Yeah. Do you care to share what your work is? Or would you not prefer not to? You don't have to.
I won't share exactly, but somewhere in the international relations space.
He's in that space, y'all.
Space. I hate the word space, but
I know.
It's good. It's ambiguous. Whatever.
I posted some question boxes. If I'm sounding like a robot right now, I'm sorry.
You really don't.
Am I seeming weird?
No.
Am I seeming like your interviewer?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I think it's a normal conversation.
You think so?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Are you mad at me? No.
So today I posted on Instagram a couple different prompts that you guys wrote in about, and we're going to get this boy yapping. I will say this. Well, actually, no, I won't say that. First, I will say that Justin is one of the most reflective, like, strategical thinkers I've ever met. One of my favorite things about him is how he thinks strategically, like, yes, about his professional life, but also about his relationships, his friendships, how he engages with the world, his own mental health. Like, he thinks about these things. I've never heard someone speak so, I want to say strategically, about all of those things. You put in like a lot of intentional thought and effort into things, even like naming your own pitfalls, your own
weaknesses.
Weaknesses, or, you know, whatever weaknesses, like character traits, things that limit you, and naming them, understanding what motivates you, what helps you kind of work with those things. And it's just like very, very intentional. I don't know how you got to be this way, but it's like, I think it's one of my favorite things about you, and you just have great input, whether it's work-related stuff, dating, you know, friendships, family relationships, like how to be happy in life, fulfillment, all those things, health. I just love, like, I really think you should have a podcast. So I posted some Instagram stories. People wrote in about work problems. We're going to answer some work what-to-dos, some dating what-to-dos. We're going to get a male perspective.
I love speaking for all men.
Yeah.
As in the video.
You're not speaking for all men. It's just
I'm joking.
a perspective. And what the heck else were we going to talk about? Talk a little bit. There were some mental health questions. Justin's health is very mental, so
wait, no, that is not. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's very, very mental, but also very healthy.
Yeah. I feel like this was a very long and very sweet way of saying that I'm a Roomba.
A Roomba. You are a Roomba. I call Justin a Roomba. He the robot butler. Just the way he thinks through things. But no, I don't think that's the robot part of you. You're just very intentional.
Yeah, no, I'm joking, but I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, do you want to jump in the...
Yeah, you want to do this, dog? Okay, we're going to start with a light one. Justin has read and approved the questions. I'm not putting you on the spot or anything. Okay, so somebody wrote in and asked, this was under questions specifically for Justin. Somebody asked, what are his feelings about suddenly having an online presence via your significant other, which is me?
Yeah, I think this one's actually kind of surprising because I generally think of myself as a pretty private person in general. And I surprised myself in terms of like not really caring, in terms of, you know, Caroline's very good about like, you know, letting me cut anything if it was like hypothetically outside my comfort zone.
Like with the podcast or videos, like anytime anyone's a guest in those things, I always want to make sure that they're comfortable with what's going out, obviously.
So it doesn't feel like very high risk in terms of like, oh, like is something going to go out that I don't like? And I've been recognized a couple of times with Caroline, without Caroline. I think it's kind of funny. I mean, honestly, like I just
You've been
enjoy
recognized
it.
on the street, you mean?
Yeah, it's been like I think 3 or 4 times at the airport, on the street, random things in DC.
My favorite one, I wasn't even there for it. Can you tell
Yeah.
my favorite one? This happened just like a week or 2 ago.
Yeah, I think like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody crossing the street, I mean, must have seen me before, but crossing the street, kitty corner from me, said, yelled, what was it, peace be with you? And I didn't know how to react because it was like, is this person talking to me? And I was like, well, they must be. And they just kept walking. I didn't really get like a good look at the person.
It
Kind of was like a rushed thing. Like
Yeah.
where I feel like they almost were like uncomfortable doing it. I don't know.
It was a hit and run.
Yeah, it was a hit and run.
Which, peace be with you, is kind of an inside joke, but it was, we talked about it in the video that Justin was in, my YouTube video, which was, I think it's it's one of the dating love, how I found love or something. And I shared that on our 5th date, when Justin kissed me, my response was to say, peace be with you. I don't know why. Those are the words that came out of my mouth.
Totally out of the blue.
Yeah.
No religion talk beforehand. Nothing that would even remotely set it up.
I don't know why. That was the only thing I could think to say. So he was walking in my neighborhood the other day, and someone just catcalled him by yelling, peace be with you.
Yeah. And like, I still I think the fun thing about it is I'm still like, maybe that was for someone else.
Couldn't be me.
It couldn't be. But I think that's the fun part of like
I think it was for
the
you.
private public thing where it's like, there's no way.
Yeah.
But it probably was.
Has it affected you much? I mean, I feel like you're still very, very private. I feel like I don't even feel like a public person. The thing with YouTube and the podcast is like, it's all happening in my living room. My experience of this is not public on the internet. My experience is like, I'm still in my living room. I don't see anybody. So that's a weird thing where there are a lot of people watching, but it's more of an experience for them than it is for me. And even I don't know. I don't even want to be on social media recently. I'm not on Instagram right now. And you are barely.
Yeah, I think that's part of why it feels a little surreal, and B, like why I'm okay with it. Because like if it was like, if you'd asked me like to go to like an auditorium with 10,000 people and like talk to you, yeah, it's not going to happen. Just like it's so far from my comfort zone, but like having a conversation that's then broadcast or like just like on YouTube, I don't really feel it in the same way. It doesn't feel like there's, that public presence in the same way, even if it is in effect happening.
It doesn't feel like it to me either. I get it.
Yeah.
Do you have any great fears?
Not really. No, I think I would be more if like this was like reality TV style of like
right, if it's live or something.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna give you a bad edit,
yeah.
that'll be my revenge. If we get into a weird fight, I'll be like, I'll give you a bad edit.
Or just like look really awkward, like a double chin shot from below or something.
Knock you down.
Be mortified.
Okay, moving right along. I'm sorry, I'm such an interviewer. I don't know how to relax. I love you.
I love you too. I don't mind.
I know. I'm actually
having a
talking.
fun time.
I'm talking to the listeners.
Oh, they're listeners. I forgot. No.
I know. Okay. Somebody wrote in, we got a lot of questions about first dates. One is specific to our first date, but we're not just going to sit here and talk about you and me the whole time. We're going to talk about hopefully valuable things. But there are a couple first date questions. What's appropriate on first dates from your perspective? La, 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 la. But somebody wrote in asking personally for us, how was watching Caroline's YouTube channel before knowing her and before going on a date? So this references... I always really struggled. I've talked about this on the podcast, but I could not for the life of me figure out how to let guys know that my livelihood was from YouTube. That felt really uncomfortable. Like, listeners and fans think it's cool, but when you just tell a random person on the street, they're like, oh, are you destitute? Are you stupid? Do you have a brain? Like, what are you doing? Like unwrapping, videos?
Oh, if
or
you
like
did unwrapping videos, no. Are
you doing pranks? Like, they have nothing to picture. It's very weird. And I really struggled telling people that. And I think I also worried that maybe people wouldn't respect me or I don't know. And eventually Jess, bless her freaking heart, told me to just put it on my profile that like I'm a YouTuber. And then, I listed that it was under my name. I added that to my dating profile. with the assumption that then people are going to go and look it up and they'll troll me if they want to troll me. And if they like it, maybe they'll want to meet me. And it was a good filtering thing. And then once I put that on my profile, the first person I went out with was you.
Yeah, I love that part.
Yeah.
I think that I didn't think of it necessarily as like a bold thing at all, but I did immediately look you up once I saw that. And I think mainly I mostly wanted to make, I guess, to see the kinds of videos that you did in terms of like, so I actually didn't really watch, I think I watched a minute of a video and I looked at all your titles.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see like what your genre was basically.
True.
Because yeah, to be fair, like if you did do something like makeup unwrapping, I would still give you a shot, but there's a high likelihood that like we're probably not the right people for each other in that case.
Sure.
So just seeing the kind of the scope of like the work that you did, and I did listen to like roughly like a minute, maybe 2 minutes to get a sense of your voice, but I also didn't want to prejudice my own like take on you as a person, so I didn't want to watch any until I'd been on a couple of dates with you, if that happened.
But you wanted to hear my voice because you have a problem with voices?
Yeah, well, that's one. Yeah, I mean, certain voices, and it makes no sense. It's just a weird Justin thing.
Yeah, I think everybody has those things. That's okay.
I've met some like people who like very smart, great people, and their voices just immediately rub me the wrong way.
Yeah,
like, I can't do it.
Totally, I agree. It's a sense. It's part of attraction. There's voices
yeah.
There's voices I would execute for sure. You have a nice voice. So my voice passed the test. What video did you watch?
Oh, I don't know, because it was literally like a minute 30, 2 minutes, and like the point was mostly like see your demeanor and like your voice, where it was like, okay, she seems like a normal person.
So you thought I was pretty hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that is the thing with online dating, is that like it does help in that way, where it's like you both know that you're at least a little bit attracted to each other.
I don't know. I've gone out with so many people that I hated. That I was like,
I haven't,
because I kept dating people. I thought I was choosing too strictly based on looks, and I was like, I fall in love with hideous people all the time. I'm good at it. And so I need to be letting some of those, I need to let some of those in, be more open, date based on personality. So I would throw wild cards in. I would throw wild faces in. Yeah. I wasn't always going in being like, I was trying to always picture, like, assume this person has the most dazzling personality. Then would you go out with them? But often they didn't.
Yeah. I think that's like a nice and like open hearted way to like go into it.
Thank you.
I think it reminds me of like what you said in your dating video with the whole giving people a chance and essentially like potentially ending up in situations where like you're dating somebody you don't actually find attractive.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
I did that.
But I think it's one of those things where, at least in my experience, at the very minimum, it means like if we were at a bar, I would probably look twice at you.
All right. Is that like in a good way?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm saying like if I like you on a dating app, like that would mean like there's at least some kind of attraction.
Okay.
Your spin on this is a little different.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's everyone.
What was your criteria for like agreeing to go on a date with somebody? Just like any old hag with a face?
Yeah, I'm known for just accepting anything. No,
how
what's the
picky?
criteria?
Yeah, like how
very picky.
You're not speaking for all men right now. You're just
No.
sharing your perspective as someone who identifies as a man.
What was the criteria? I mean, okay, like are you initially like physically attracted to the person? Can they hold a conversation? Do they seem like they're going to be funny, or at least like they might appreciate my humor? Do they ask me questions? I mean, as a guy on a dating app, one of the things that you realize really quickly is a lot of the time, welcome to the stage, your tonight's show. And if you don't immediately start entertaining, then, there are 18,000 of you that will do the little dance or the performance.
Oh, if you don't, so you feel like you're performing, like you have to deliver more of a performance to women?
I think on the apps, I think the dynamic is that women are frequently flooded with possible suitors.
Yeah.
And so if you, a certain type of person who's like flooded with, potential suitors, doesn't really feel much need to make an effort.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, is the person going to put in a little bit of effort?
Okay, so that would be something that would stand out to you. That they put a little. I mean, that's so funny because I feel like that's like human decency.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of the problems with apps in general, right? Is it kind of like reduces people to like a Pokemon card, where it's sort of like, like, is this a rare one? Is this like, like one? Maybe if I get another pack, I'll get a better one.
Does this one breathe fire?
Yeah.
Wow, Pokemon cards. It's so wild.
Yeah. No, I think it's one of those ones where I think it was Abby saying that she'd never get to experience the dating apps. You're very lucky.
Yeah.
They're a special kind of place.
I used to be like, you know what? Dating apps are the same as dating in real life. Like some people, because it would annoy me when everyone was like, everyone sucks on the apps. I was like, hello, everyone sucks in real life. Like, I don't connect left and right with every, like, no, I'm not going to go on a date with 90%, 99% of people I pass on the street. And also plenty of people are rude, or you don't connect, or you don't have shared interests, or they don't make an effort, or you're not attracted, or whatever. To me, at first, I felt like, yep, the chances are low in the apps and they're low in person. But I have since amended that position. Like, there are some weird dynamics that are specific to dating apps. The way, I don't know, selecting, just based on a Pokemon card. It is brutal.
It's that element of like, you strip out like the humanity of like, oh, this person's being vulnerable, approaching me and like talking to me.
Yeah.
Instead, like you literally are opening a pack of Pokemon cards for your day and you're seeing which cards you want to keep and which you want to throw away. Cards don't really matter. It sort of becomes like a relational thing. And I think that's what a lot of people talk about, where it's like, you're just flipping through and like, it can become a form of entertainment for some people. It can be, I think it's just ultimately kind of dehumanizing.
But you are someone who interacts, as far as I knew you, with apps in a very humane way.
Or as my sister says, as an interviewer at like a job interview.
Yeah, you're very interviewee.
Very formally.
So how was your approach different? Because it's easy to start treating people like Pokemon cards. But you I will say like my approach was that girls get overwhelmed with messages and stuff. And I would just get overwhelmed with the apps. Everybody does. I think men and women too. Yeah. But it didn't feel like fun overwhelm. It just felt exhausting and draining and disheartening. And I didn't have energy to put towards it. If there was someone, I would miss them because I was so drained and jaded. So what I would do is like, if I had matched and was having moderately respectable conversation with 3 people, I would pause my profile.
I actually did the same thing.
Really?
I had no idea. Yeah, 3 people is like the limit.
That's it. Like I'm not, because I'm not going to be able to put respectful energy and attention to more than 3 conversations at a time. Like that's pushing it. So I would pause the profile so I don't get more likes, don't get overwhelmed. Because also then if you're like raking in likes that you're not looking at and then you're responding to them a month later or 2 months later, it reads as if you're fucking around.
Because you are.
But you're not. It's like
I'm totally joking.
I know, but you've been living your life. But it can read like if a guy did that to me, if I, swiped on a guy and I didn't get a message from him until 2 months later, I'd be like, fuck this dude.
Yeah.
But he very well could have been doing the same thing I was doing. So, and he also could be a fucker. But anyway, that was basically for preserving my energy so that I didn't get fed up. Is like I would cap it off at talking to 3 people. Cross them off the list as soon as possible, get them out of here. And then once, those dates did or did not continue, if they all ended and there was no second dates or whatever, then I would go and like swipe again.
Yeah, I think one of the more like offensive things to me in daily life is when somehow I take on second jobs that I don't want. And I think like at a certain point, like the, Hinge Bumble thing, it was like, I didn't realize like I was an HR specialist. Hey, like, glad you're here. So what exactly do you do for fun? Like,
Yeah.
And it really started to feel where like you're interviewing job candidates.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're talking to like, 6 to 10 people, you can't keep them straight.
I don't know
how
like, anyone can do that. I would have to reread the convos while walking up to someone on a date. I'd have to reread the convo and be like, what did I tell this one? What did we talk about?
Like I think initially, like, because I came out of a long-term relationship and then was on the apps, and like initially, I think I had the same experience where it was sort of like, it was hard to like keep conversations straight. Where it was like, I would frequently be like, oh, it's like the thing I said. And then be like, oh, wrong person.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough look.
Well, and it's just, it's that whole thing of like, it feeds into the whole like, once you have like a ton of people you're talking to or whatever, it's not good for anyone. I don't think anyone's satisfied.
Agree. I felt very, very clear that like I was not showing up with the right energy. Like I was being a fucker if I was, talking to more than 3 people at once. Yeah. Great questions sent in. I am going to shout this person out because they sent so many good questions.
So many.
Found Father. I don't know who you are, girl, but she knocked it out of the park with her questions on these DMs. Found Father wrote in, is it worth selling out to help get you closer to sustaining a lifestyle you want? I have opinions on this.
Yeah, me too. And life experience.
Yeah. Yeah, same. You want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to go. It actually, I didn't think of this before, but yes, I did also love your questions. I work in international relations, and a lot of the time I think like as a college student, like the sexiest thing you can do is be like on the ground doing the actual like interacting with people day to day, etc. And so I'd found a way to like be international relations adjacent, but it wasn't quite what I wanted to do. And I had a friend's dad who ran a significant portion of a significant NGO, and bless his heart, he took the time to like talk to me. And I explained to him kind of, I have this position, but it's not exactly what I want to be doing. It's adjacent, but I want to do what you do. And he was so direct with me. He was like, how much are you making? And at the time, I think it was roughly like $50,000 a year. And
this was when you were in international relations and thinking about switching over to an NGO?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the same area, but being more like hands-on, where it's like the people delivering stuff rather than people who are like on the management side. And he was like, yeah, you're going to have to work at least 5 years for us before you'd even potentially be able to hit that. Do you speak any foreign languages? He ran through my resume and he's like, listen, man, I just hired a woman who's lived in Yemen for 10 years, speaks 5 languages. She worked for no pay for 2 years, and she's getting paid $45 a year. And I was like, oh. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, is there any like kind of way around this, or like any like avenue of approach? And his response was like, I really recommend being independently wealthy. And that was kind of the end of the call. Like, I love his directness and everything.
Yeah.
But I think that his underlying point is, if you can get close to the field you want, or you can be like part of it, you can advance the cause generally, and you can do it in a way that is actually like sustainable, don't knock it. I mean, there are ways to like be part of the world you want to be part of, even if it's not the perfect job. Mm-hmm. And you can still, assist in the mission, advance things in like a meaningful way, while still also being able to afford a major city.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where it's like you need to figure out the extent to which you're okay with that. So selling out, I mean, I think people usually assume the worst case, like you're going to work for a corporation. Frequently, there are like middle tiers. You might be able to find things that like
are a compromise.
Yeah, where like you might not be doing exactly what you want to do, but you also might be able to have a family in a city.
Yeah.
So it's your choice. So either, I think like look around and see what's possible. It's not always possible for every industry.
It might have to be. It might not have to be such an extreme change. That's great. That's a great perspective. It's so funny because when I think about that, I think from like the creative side, people use selling out as a term, which I think the term is so annoying. Everybody is allowed to have their own priorities of like what a fulfilling life is to them. Wanting to be able to support a family and live in a city. If that means selling out to you, so be it. I'll be a sellout. Don't let anybody else dictate your priorities. And on the extreme end of things, I feel like I've been on all ends of this spectrum. Like I did the 100% creative artistic pursuit when I was an actor. I gave up everything in order to like just pursue the art. And what's funny about that, and like living as most creatives do on a super low income, or maybe if you're at a nonprofit or whatever, is it actually flies in the face of our our newer tenet of like work-life balance. Like, we don't work to live. When you take those jobs, usually whether it's a creative, whether it's a nonprofit, you are most likely like your job is your life. It has to be, because why else would you be doing that? Why else would you be doing it's like the passion is supposed to be what pays you.
And that's the reason they can get away with paying you nothing.
That's what,
it's a vocation.
Because it's a vocation. Like, the passion is what pays you. Or it's a field that's so oversaturated that they can afford, like with a lot of writing jobs, there's so many writers, they can afford to fuck them over with pay. And it's a vocation, you know. But what the funny thing about that is it actually becomes the very thing all the like today's young anti-capitalists claim that they like to avoid, which is like making your job your identity. And it usually means your job is going to have to be your identity, or it already is. And that, to me, was not a fulfilling life. Like, it wasn't an NGO. I was just pursuing my fucking self-indulgent art, but it meant I did not have time for family. I did not have time for friends. I did not have time for free time. I was working other jobs to support it. Forget a travel, forget a break, forget going home on the weekends, forget vacations, any of it. It's like, it's not illegitimate to want to have disposable income, to want to be able to go out and celebrate with your friends, to want to be able to treat your family, or to go on vacations, or have evenings free. If that's what selling out is, and I think a lot of times that is what you get when you trade for like more of a corporate position, or a middle ground between your idealized job and the most egregious sellout version. But there are a bunch of different ways to get fulfillment from your life, and expecting to get all of that from your job, that's a very rare position to be in. And it can also screw you over, because work doesn't love you back. Whether you're at a nonprofit, whether you're a doctor who gets fired from a hospital, whether you are a creative, whether you're a lawyer, you can get fired. Your work will not love you back. If that's the only thing you're seeking fulfillment from, you can do it. People do, but I found a really precarious situation to be in.
It's pretty ruthless.
It is ruthless.
Well, that actually gets exactly at the point that I wanted to mention on this too. There's nothing worse than the person who follows their vocation and then is extremely bitter about the people who, whatever, sold out. Call it what you want. If this is such a great mission, you knew going in what it was, and obviously your perspective changes over time, but at the same time, you're doing what you want to do. The people who are selling out have to suffer through doing what they don't want to do frequently.
Yeah, they have to pay a different price. They definitely do. There's prices on both sides.
And it sucks. Yeah, like obviously not being able to buy the things you want to do, but like if these things are so important to you, like that would be the exchange. Like you balance it. I mean, or at least weigh it out for yourself. I mean, everybody's scale is going to be different, but what is acceptable to you in terms of like, yeah, I may never be able to buy like a massive house in a city or whatever, but maybe it's okay if I can just afford rent in that city and like help a lot of people. I think like, and that'll change person to person.
So yeah, I feel like, okay, like is teaching considered a vocation?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
Okay,
100%.
So you're doing it like, if you're doing something like that, it's pretty transparent what the pay is going to be. It varies a little bit school to school, but it's like, it's pretty clear what the pay is going to be. It's pretty clear you're going to be underpaid, and it's pretty clear that the fulfillment will likely come from things other than money. It's going to come from the people you work with, hopefully, the community, the kids, the love of the, subject matter itself. Can be extremely fulfilling, and you might get avenues of fulfillment that lots of people never get in their job, but it's not going to be money. When I went into tech, like I had money, and the downside was I didn't get to do whatever the fuck I wanted. And when I went into the arts, I got to do what I wanted, but I could barely live. I was living in New York City on $33,000 a year. I don't even know how I did it. But yeah, so you're going to take a cut somewhere on all sides.
I mean, like make a reflect and like consider like, is it okay that like, this thing like that I really care about, if I do it in the exact way I want to do, will entail other sacrifices. You are getting exactly what you want to do, but there are associated costs.
Yeah. One thing that you've said that I thought was really great was, I think you said early on or throughout your life, you got advice to look to the people in your life that seem to be really happy and to like learn about them, learn how they make decisions, learn how they weigh pros and cons, whatever. And I will say that definitely applied. Like when I looked around at like so many actors, acting teachers, coaches, like everyone was so bitter. Not every single person, but 95% of people, working or not, were so bitter. It became very clear that like it is hard to be happy in this field. I feel like I could say the same for law, like very different field, but they're making a lot of money and it seems very happy, very hard. It does not seem very happy. It seems very hard to be happy in that field. So like two opposite ends of the spectrum. Follow the well-being, basically, or people in your life who you know.
And, you know, honestly, like, and that's perfectly subjective, because if they are doing something and their state of being is something that you admire or that you want to replicate, start trying the things that they do. And worst case scenario, you're not committed to it. You know, if you try out like this habit of life, this pattern of life, and you're like, well, that actually isn't for me. It's not making me happy in the way I thought. You can try something new.
Here's a work question. Dating my manager, ... Known each other for 2 years and now secretly dating.
You keep it a fucking secret. I rarely swear publicly, but like, I mean, there's no other option here. I mean, like, honestly, like,
is that always illegal, or is it illegal, or what's the deal?
I think that there can be issues, like if somebody were to like allege that there's like coercion or something. It's not inherently illegal, but it's almost always against company policies. It also almost always looks horrific, especially if there's a power differential, and especially if it's a direct power differential.
Yeah.
But
I bet that makes it hot. I bet it's a hot hunk.
I bet it is pretty hot. The problem being that nobody else is very enamored with your situation.
Well, what if you just go to the CEO and you say, listen, you don't understand. It's really hot.
That's actually a good point. And you could potentially explain like all the sneaking around, like why that's actually really fun.
Yeah, it makes me enjoy meetings more. I'm actually looking forward to meetings now because there's a lot of tension. Now. I'm paying attention now. You want me sucking my manager?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, you know, in the right workplace, yeah, potentially, like that might be a good sell.
Okay, what do we feel like answering? La 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 la. Ooh, this is a good one. How to get through a period of being sad and still spend quality time with a partner. What? Why are you pointing at me?
I was asking if you want to go first. I did the raised eyebrows, like, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I thought you were just saying that's you.
No. Sorry. No.
That is me though. How to get through a period of being sad and still spend quality time with a partner. Let me think through what we actually do. I think you and I are pretty good at communicating through what's going on for the most part. I mean, I think we tell each other even before we see each other, like what kind of mood we're in so that the other isn't shocked. Like sometimes when we see each other right after work, we can both be still kind of in a work daze, and Justin will come over in like robot mode, or I will be in super distractible, like anxious mode. Right before we saw each other today, before we recorded the podcast, I had to go on like an emergency jog just to get some of my like anxiety mind out after working. Otherwise, I'm not good seeing people. So whether that's a depression or an anxiety or preoccupation or worry with work or whatever, we kind of let each other know, like, this is the state I'm in. It's not about you, but I'm going to be a little weird. I might not be very talkative. If you're sad, yeah, I think I just say I'm sad. And I think it's hard, not that you have to talk about it right away or ever or share everything, but I do think it gets hard. Like if I showed up and saw you and was just like, I'm sad, and never even said it's about XYZ.
I'd be sweating.
You'd be sweating, dog, and I'd be sweating. So I do think it helps to, at some point, just be like, yeah, I had some family interactions that have really depressed me, and I'm just feeling sad about my siblings, or like I'm feeling bad about friends. I don't want to talk about it. It's not about you, blah, blah, blah. Or I think there's times we've seen each other where we do feel sad about something in the relationship, and that feels pretty important to talk about eventually. But we've both, I think, done that. I think we've both showed up that way in moments and been like, I can't talk right now. but like, can we talk later? And those are really, when it's like a pressing, imminent conversation, that's really, really hard to sit and wait for the other person to be ready to talk. But I think we have both done it for each other.
Yeah, I definitely have. On your last point,
Yeah.
I think it depends on the people too. Where I mean, everybody has different styles with this thing, but like, even if I were particularly upset in a situation with anyone, like friends, family, I think physical proximity to me is a way of reassuring the other person, and also it does also, like, I think, like, yeah, it obviously helps me too.
Just
but
being with them.
Yeah, it's sort of
even
a,
if
like,
they're the person that you're sad about.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, like, that can be, I think, different for some people. It definitely can be. But I think even like communicating something like that, where it's like, this is the intent, this is like what it means to me and like what I am getting out of it, so that like it's at least somewhat clear to the person, even if they don't immediately feel it. But I think in response to the question, I think that like overall your response gets at like the fact of like, if you can convey that it isn't related to them, please do that.
Yeah.
And if it is related to them, and it's not like an existential like issue or whatever, also convey that. Or it's just sort of like, I want to think about this some more. I'm not sure exactly what to say right now, but it's not the end of the world, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
And it depends on the couple.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, the physical proximity. Yeah. So basically, just if he's kind of in a low mood, even if it's something, if we're going through a hard time, you do prefer, and you've told me that like you are communicating your commitment to us by being physically present. Like, you want to be with me. Stop me if you don't want to share any of this.
Oh, that's fine.
That you want to be physically with me. We're spending the day together, even if you're super taciturn or super down or something.
I don't know about taciturn, but
yeah, well, rarely. You've been. I've seen you, bitch. I've seen you taciturn, and he wants to be physically near and like affectionate and all these things, and that is really comforting to a degree. But it's also where we've had differences of a preference. At a certain point, I think all of these reactions get harder when it's like long term. If I were to show up, if I were super sad for like a day or 2 days, and I tell Justin, it's not about you, but I am really low, that gets very different if it persists for like 2 weeks. Like, of course they're going to start taking that on, and that's a whole different conversation,
Yeah.
I guess, because then, I mean, for obvious reasons, that's a different conversation. But I think I feel the same thing if you're really low, at a certain point, I end up needing some space. I think that's my problem, because I start I get very perturbed by your sadness. And it's actually, I think that's something I'm working on now in therapy, is like letting people have their negative feelings, whether they're about me or not. When someone I love is feeling negatively for whatever reason, I really want to like get them out of it. And that's really not a respectful thing to do. Like, it's appropriate to let people move through what they're feeling.
it also almost never works.
And it never works usually to move somebody out of what they're feeling anyway. Yeah, good luck. But it gets so hard for me to not take that on that it feels hard to be physically around you. So there's like, to me, there's a bell curve of like being close and knowing that you're in it and knowing that you're committed and knowing that like you're in this thing with me. And then sometimes I do have to like take a step away from my own sanity, because I have a hard time not taking it on.
Well, I think that's part of the compromise thing. Where as long as like, you both know what's going on.
Yeah.
And even like the framing can be important too. Where like, I think like a little while ago, just like the general concept came up in a similar, I guess, theoretical framework of like, just handling like those situations.
For me and me, you and me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just sort of like, well, like there are two very different ways of like, okay, if you need to go take a run, and like that's part of like clearing your head and like just having time to like gather yourself or whatever, saying like, I'm going to go for a run, I'll be back in a little bit, to me is extremely different from, I need some space right now.
The latter is very scary, terrifying.
I wouldn't say it's not so much that it's scary. It means something different.
You would prefer to hear me say I need to go for a run. Just say the thing I'm gonna do instead of saying I'm gonna take space.
Yeah. In general, because one sounds more ominous. So I think like it's figuring out like sort of like the person, and also like, is there a way I can make this clear that it's not the worst case scenario.
So here's what that makes me think of. I have this talent. It's a very special skill that not a lot of people have. And it's this thing where when I think really hard about what's the best way to say or do something, I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is sensitive. I have to figure out the best way to say that I need space. The harder I think about it, the higher the likelihood that I'm going to do the wrong thing.
So you might say in this instance of like wanting to take a run, you might look me in the eye and say, I need to run from you.
Yeah. When the stakes feel high to me, I think really hard about how to avoid a wrong reaction, how to avoid a wrong impression. I want to say this the right way. I don't want him to freak out. I don't want to, and guaranteed I'm going to say something like, being around you makes me want to die. I have to go on a run. Something like that. And something that I realized, my therapist helped me realize recently, she was trying to help me with some language or like some way to phrase something. And I was like, I need you to give me the language because whatever I say will be wrong. I don't say things right. And she was like, that's because of the pressure you're putting on these things you say. Like, needing to go for a run, needing some downtime is not a death sentence, but because you think of it as a death sentence, you're freaking out when you try to say that. But like,
it also freaks out other people.
It also freaks out other people. But one thing I'm trying to remind myself is like, what if I knew at the end of whatever the difficult thing you need to say is like, I'm feeling sad right now. I'm feeling anxious about this. I need space, whatever. Like, if you knew for certain the relationship will continue and continue well, what would it feel like to say this thing? If you knew for certain in the future, like the relationship continues and this is just a moment, how would it feel to say? To be like, oh, I kind of need to go on a run. You seem like you're feeling a lot of things. I'm going to step out and go for a run. I'll see you for dinner. It immediately takes all of the overthinking out of it for me.
Well, and that's the other, actually, when you just said it, it made me think of it. What you said, like, I need to go for a run. I'll see you for dinner. Setting up any kind of like
reunion.
Yeah. It just makes it feel like less immediate. And I think too is to her question, in terms of like if you're just feeling sad, so I think this is like if there's conflict, but if you're just feeling sad in general, if you communicate it and you find a way to convey that it's not about them, if it's not.
Right.
And,
be honest.
Yeah. And spend like, you may not want to talk about whatever it is, but maybe it'd be helpful to distract yourself with like favorite movie, favorite show, or like just doing something together.
Yeah.
You can always just say like, I'm feeling really sad. Like I just need to distract myself. Like, do you want to do XYZ with me?
That is the thing. I feel like everybody wants different things when they're sad or when they're mad or when they're whatever. Yeah. Like you and I have had explicit conversations. Don't assume to know how your partner wants to be comforted in those moments. For some people, when they're sad, the kindest thing you can do for them is to like help distract their attention, get them involved. Don't encourage their dwelling, get them, get their attention on something else. For others, to me, that might feel upsetting. Like, to me, that might feel like you're not letting me be sad right now. You're not acknowledging what I'm feeling. Stop changing the subject. And it really just depends. Also, I found the same for anger. A lot of the times, like, when somebody I love feels really angry, my impulse is to, like, listen to them and hear them and blah, blah, blah. And then at one point, you told me, you're like, no, what you need to do is change the subject. Like, get my mind on something else, and I'll probably be fine. And that's what I do now. I've noticed that you've done that, and I was like, that's helpful. You told me because I asked you, because I was I was like, I don't know what to do in those moments sometimes when you're really upset about something, and you were like, you need to change the subject. And so I'll just be like, because it also prompts me to realize like, oh, like I'm being like, I'm making some, like I'm you being like, a nasty boy. Yeah, I'm burning the environment. Nasty boy. Sucking the air out of the room. Say I'm being a nasty boy. No, I'm not going to do that. Say that. Not publicly. If you don't say that, you don't love me. Cut the mics. Anyway, that's when he's being a nasty boy. I just say something like, oh, tell me about your favorite leather manufacturer, la, 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 la. That was actually an exact example. Yeah, probably. It was in Savannah. Yeah. What were you angry about? It doesn't matter. Okay. We're not going to repeat it on the podcast. Not at anything about you. Okay. External things. Okay. Sounds like it was about me, dog. We'll talk about this later. Talk about that later. Ooh, somebody wrote in and asked, appropriate first date topics / bringing up stories with an ex. So I will give my opinion.
Yeah.
Which is that I think there's plenty, you and I have talked about exes extensively. We're in a relationship now. But I think we probably talked about exes maybe by the second or third date. I think that's pretty normal. But personally, I think mentioning an ex on a first date is kind of a red flag.
Huge.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Unless
it's glancing.
Glancing?
Or like if they ask you like, oh, like if you mention a trip or whatever, like, oh, I've been there too, like whatever, like we went with, I don't know, I went with someone, and they're like, oh, like, who'd you go with? And you're like, it was an ex.
If they directly ask you.
That's glancing.
That's glancing?
Yeah, girl.
Okay, girl, that's glancing.
But not the subject.
Snap
of the
when you
story.
say it. You snap? That was good. Okay, so being directly asked a question, yeah. But to me, even being like, on a first date, if I was like just telling you about my trip and I'm like, oh, and I went on this trip and with my ex, even that, I'd be like, that's not necessary to say.
Yeah.
That to me would read, it could be totally innocent. Of course it could be innocent and mean nothing and hold no weight. But on a first date, you don't know what holds weight. Like you're reading into everything. You're trying to figure out, in my experience, the people who brought it up and myself, when I brought up exes on a first date, it's because it's like word vomit. It's like your mind is still there, whether they're angry at that person still, they're in touch with that person in a messy way still, they have feelings still, or like someone being really angry at their ex still is also, I think, not great. I think you can have anger for what happened or how someone treated you, but if they're still really caught up on like,
if it's visceral for them.
In a visceral way, you're not done moving through that emotionally. So I would go out of my way not to mention an ex, even in a casual way on a first date. I think that's a bad flag. Huge red flag.
Yeah, I mean, immediately I would be on alert. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, nothing good can come from it.
I went on one date with this guy who, on our first date, started telling me about his ex. And I think he thought it was a funny story, but he like talked about it a lot, about how his ex left him for David Duchovny. And
Brutal.
I don't know if he was trying to like brag to me that his ex was so hot that she could get David Duchovny. He showed me photos of them together. You can Google them.
That's what he was doing then.
Yeah, I think he was trying to brag,
pics.
But he brought it up like multiple times.
Yeah,
And
I've been left by better people than you, so whatever.
Yeah, that's basically what he was saying. And I didn't know what to say. It was weird. I don't know. It really was weird. It didn't seem like just a funny story he was telling. It felt like
there was a point.
It felt like there was a point. Yeah.
Still trying to figure out what the point was.
I didn't like it.
No.
Yeah.
Terrible. I mean, it just avoid it because, like, at the very, very best case scenario, the person is okay with it and they're in 5% of the population.
Yeah.
The other 95% of people are like, all right, it's one of these.
So, yeah, totally. Yeah. Not worth the risk.
Yeah.
Even if you have innocent intentions or whatever. Is there anything else that you would definitely not bring up on a first date? So many things.
No. I mean, honestly, like, I think it depends how you do it, but, like, It depends on who you are. I know it's a terrible answer in terms of like it's so like contextual or whatever. But like, you know, if political issues are super important to you, like that's your life. It is DC, so it's with everybody. But if that is something that like is eventually going to become a deal breaker, I think I agree with what you and Jess were saying before, where it's like get that out of the way up front. You can do it respectfully. You can do it kindly. You don't even have to do it at that date. You can, after when they text for a second date, just be like, I don't think it's a good fit. Mm-hmm. But if it's important to you, if you're just being an idiot and like saying whatever comes to mind without any intent, that's a tough look.
Yeah. Okay, love it. Love it. Here's a question. Somebody wrote in, would you date your friend's ex-wife, even if they divorced amicably and are friendly?
Never in a million years.
Oh.
I honestly, like, I don't, we've talked about this in a different format of like, maybe like an ex of like a friend or whatever, but not necessarily like a divorce.
Yeah.
It is so egregious to me. Like if my friend dated an ex-girlfriend of mine, we're no longer friends.
Yeah.
Like it's such a huge violation.
Yeah.
Like you do not have something so special that you have to do it. There are a million people and this person knows me in a way that I don't need you to know. And the motives are immediately suspect. It's kind of like...
It does kind of make me think of them like waiting in the shadows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't trust you anymore.
That's true.
You're not my friend.
That is what it is. Ugh. I don't think I would ever stop somebody from doing it. I think I've encouraged people I've dated to go out with people I know, actually. But that's almost a defensive thing. I don't think I've ever actually had someone date an ex, but I have seen friends marry somebody who was their friend's ex, and I know that those friendships did not last. It seemed to be mutually exclusive. It just seems very complicated. There's other people to date. Yeah, that's your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it boils down to, where it's like, you know that this would hurt me. I don't believe you that this is so special, etc. That like you have to do it.
What if you went? What if they came and asked you?
I would be disgusted. And that would be where the friendship ended, rather than when I found out.
That's true. What if?
I think the question is the offense.
Okay.
Like it's sort of we did this thing. We committed, yes, 1,000,000%, because you've immediately violated like the bedrock of like, I trust you, I believe you have my interests at heart.
You're talking about the friend, or you're talking about
Both.
your ex? Okay.
No, in this case, the friend, where it's like, I trust you, that you take my feelings into consideration. To me, it's a huge cop out to be like, well, I checked with you. Yeah. Did you? I mean, like, sure, but like the friendship ends or it doesn't. So it's almost coercive in a way. You're going to do it if you want to. Yeah. And if you don't, like, I'm supposed to believe that there's not anything in the background, the friendship's over.
Yeah, that's a tough look. Yeah, I guess I can't actually imagine doing it. I don't feel like outright outraged about it. I don't think I've seen anyone do it successfully and keep their friendship.
I think that's enough right there.
I know. I'm sure there's some weird exceptions. I will say, when I was in maybe 9th grade, I had a secret affair. It was a Facebook affair. It was a Facebook Messenger affair. Yeah. With my friend's older brother, who was like this hot boy around town, and like everyone had a crush on him. And she had a little bit of paranoia that people were just using her to get to her brother. And so it was kind of a sensitivity for her. And then one day we were at a family dinner. I was at a family dinner with her and her family, and her brother started playing footsie with me under the table. And then he started messaging me. And so I was like messaging him a little bit, but...
What are the ages here?
14, 16. Yeah, reasonable.
Yeah, I'm always just curious. With like an older brother, it's like
28.
How far are my eyebrows going?
No. He was like 2 years older. And we messaged a little bit on Facebook, like flirty, whatever. And then I was so overcome with guilt that I like ran to my friend and I confessed. I'm a big confessor. And I told her, I was like, I'm so sorry, I've been messaging with your brother on Facebook. Nothing ever happened. He touched my foot one time without my consent, with his foot, while his parents were there. Yeah, we didn't hook up. Nothing happened. We messaged on Facebook Messenger or whatever. I was 14. And I went and like confessed my sins. And then she and all of my friends didn't talk to me for like a year. And I think he was probably mad at me too, because I didn't say anything to him. I didn't think this through very well. I didn't say anything to him, so he was thrown under the bus. I will say, I regretted doing that.
I think age is the biggest, like, exculpatory like factor here, where it's like, you're 14. I mean, like, I think that's when you're making those mistakes for the first time, and it's like, I don't think anyone could really hold you to that.
They did. Nobody talked to me for a year.
Because there were other 14-year-olds.
That's true.
I think I mean I think in the way that you were bringing it up of like feeling bad, it's like I don't know. A 14-year-old doing this is one thing, but if you're 28 and you come to me and you're like, yeah, man, the thing is, like, your ex, like, I think we have something.
I guess that's why I'm bringing it up, because although it's not the exact same thing as an ex, and I'm trying to put myself in those shoes. And I haven't ever been in that position of being like thinking I have a big crush on someone's ex. But I feel like that instance was the closest. It was my friend's brother. It was basically someone she felt very sensitive, protective of, don't go there. And even that, I felt, the experience of it made me feel so guilty. And it felt like a betrayal. It did feel like I was betraying her. So I guess...
Sometimes go with your heart.
I'm saying, yeah, I was a bad girl.
You're 14. And he initiated it.
Yeah, that's right. Ooh, here's a good one. Somebody wrote in, what's a non-creepy way to make a connection with a virtual classmate?
I think this is one where, like when we saw this before, I do have a direct instance of this where I was at a training, an online virtual training that was like a week long with a different agency, and ended up meeting somebody through it. And I think it's a lot like when you're meeting somebody in person generally, and you don't know if they're dating somebody or whatever. There are a lot of like pretty.
Oh, is this a romantic interest?
I think that's what it means, right?
Oh.
Question wise?
Oh.
What's the question?
I thought it was like, I just assumed it was platonic. I guess they actually didn't say. They just said non-creepy way to make a connection.
I think the
with a virtual
creepy
classmate.
part make a connection. You're right, a connection.
Even as a friend, I think you could kind of seem creepy. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people would be afraid being
Friend's
the
almost
creep.
tougher.
Yeah, I think friend is tough. Is being
Yeah.
like, hey, I like how you show up in that Zoom. Can we eat food together?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the question always, you need to find like some kind of natural way that you are interacting in a semi direct context. Like if it's a lecture class and you're never like in breakout groups or whatever, I'm sorry, but it's probably not going to happen. You can try it, but it's going to be
What
creepy.
are you responding to even then?
That's what I mean.
You're
Yeah.
just being like, I like your face. Okay, so wait, so you asked somebody out who was a classmate.
Yeah.
Okay, and you think it was non-creepy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, tell them.
Yeah, it was a training, and we were just talking. We were in a breakout group, and we had like some assignment, and she emailed me, kind of asking for like clarification, and just like included like some kind of like friendly-ish,
Yeah.
sign off.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of like the end. I mean, it's like when you're talking with somebody normally, you can kind of feel it out. Or,
Yeah, if they're trying to be all business, or if they're leaving room for a banter. Or something. Yeah,
it's clear. So there's clarifying an assignment in the first half, and then sort of being like, "Hope you have a nice weekend." Like I'm going to be doing, whatever.
What are you wearing?
Yeah, might as well have been. But but yeah, I think like you need a little bit of like a breakout room and or like a little group experience where you're at least talking to this person directly. Wait until you've spoken to them a few times directly, because that you find them attractive. That's how you come across as creepy, if you just go on that.
Oh yeah.
Or like if there's no like dynamic, it's sort of like, oh, like you find me attractive. Do you do this to everybody you find attractive?
Totally, that is the thing. Yeah, that is the thing.
It's kind of weird. It's
yeah.
like, all
So
right.
I think romantically or friendship wise, you got to build up the banter first.
There has to be
It's like
some
more
kind of rapport.
more vetting has to be done, or more rapport has to be required.
Yeah.
When it's online.
Oh yeah, I think almost more.
Yeah.
Because you don't get a sense of like the body language, like like in person you might see the person looking at you like multiple times, or like they
Yeah.
might smile at you in like off moments.
That's
They're never
so
doing
true.
that virtually.
Right. Also, anything seems more intense and direct and creepy online. So I feel like you don't get to see someone sitting in a room acting like a normal person, interacting normally with other people, and being a non-creep. So it probably takes longer to prove that.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, and there's a significant chance that
Dang,
either
dog.
friendship or relationship wise that like the person will be weirded out.
Yeah.
But if you do it respectfully and like, please, for the love of God, make sure that like you've established some sort of rapport, and do it politely and like deferentially, where it's, you have to understand that like if this person doesn't want to be with you, they still have to be in the class with you.
Yeah.
And so give them outs,
Yeah.
like give them chances to say no where it's not like
Big deal.
a big deal. Yeah. And somebody who like, turns you down like in a polite situation, if they are interested, they will find a way to invite you to do something or to talk to you further. It's sort of like dating, where like if somebody turns down your dating request, and they never pitch a different idea, or like they never like come with you, like,
Yeah.
or they just don't respond more. Well, you got to kind of take a hint at a certain point.
Yeah, I really felt that in dating. Like, if you taking into account the energy that someone's putting into something, like if they turn down a date you proposed to hang out, and they don't follow up with an alternative date, does it mean they're a fuckboy? No, not necessarily. Does it mean maybe they're just really busy with school? Probably. But like both of those are kind of not acceptable to me. If you are so consumed, whether it's work or school or whatever, if you are so consumed with those things, but still being on an app for dating and comfortable, like not putting in energy there, then like whether it's malevolent or not, you're not going to be giving an appropriate amount of attention. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't really matter why they don't follow up.
And it can even be benign. It's like if you don't feel good about it, well, that also isn't great.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel like you're having to like compromise, like, you know, whatever standard you have or whatnot.
I mean, I also don't want to date someone. I don't want to date a fuckboy, but I also don't want to date someone who's so married to their job that it becomes a problem, or so, you know, whatever the reason is. Okay, moving on. Okay. Oh my God, this is a great question that I definitely did not write. I actually didn't write this.
Okay.
How often do you think about your partner / person you're dating when you're not with them? Do you, first of all, do you feel
second.
Okay, do you feel safe? Do you feel like you can answer honestly?
I need help.
Blink twice.
Blink twice.
Nobody's gonna come for you, Justin. You're gonna die in this room.
No one will hear you.
Look at me. Look at me.
God can hear you here.
Say the right thing. I know you're gonna say the right thing.
Thank you. No, it's not a mercy situation. But yeah, I think realistically, like, I think it depends on a lot. And that's a terrible first answer, but
yes,
I think like
bad answer.
In reality, like, it's kind of interesting because like sometimes it's like right after you hang out with somebody, you think about them the entire next day. Sometimes it's like if you've been away from each other for a little while, it becomes more insistent. Sometimes little like things will remind you throughout the day randomly. It just, you know, like coincidentally, like you might see like somebody wearing like the same top or whatever, it just pops into your head, and then like there's a chain of thought about that person. So I would say like pretty often it's contextual. I think it would be weird if you don't think about them at least a couple of times a day.
Let's get those numbers up.
Let's pull this. Those are rookie numbers. I like today.
So you're saying that you've had thoughts today that didn't
involve you?
Revolve around me?
I need help. No, it is one of those ones too. Like, it's, you know, a work day or whatever. Like, but you think about the person during the breaks and whatnot. It's hard to, in terms of answering this. I was going to say, like, how do you measure it?
Yeah.
I would say like there are times when you think about the person constantly, even like in a long-term relationship. There are times when like you're just stressed out of your mind, and you know that you're going to see them at the end of the day, and you think of it twice during like the stressful period, and it's its own like light at the end of the tunnel, and it's heartening, and you know, it helps you get through the day. And then other times where it might be like 15 times you're talking to them throughout the day over text. Mm-hmm. I don't think that this is actually that helpful of a measure in general.
Yeah. I want to know what the intention is, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how I can answer this question. I feel like I would give the same answer. Like, yeah, same. We kind of gave non-answers, but I think
but I don't think there is. You have to know the intent.
Yeah.
It really depends, like, what's going on in your relationship, what's going on, like, with work, what's going on with everything else.
I would say, I think, actually, if things are really good, I might think about you less. Because it's, like, it has, like, the comfort. Okay, hold on. It has the comfort and security. It's, like, that's what people talk about, secure attachment. The security to let go and go do the other things you have to do. I feel like when I'm feeling really secure, I'm still thinking about you during the day, but it's less of the gripping. It's more comfort with being present.
So sometimes it's pretty gripping.
Okay, yeah.
But I think that like your point here is genuinely a good one, which is like there are different ways of thinking about somebody throughout the day, where it's like if you're worried, you might think about them constantly.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign. And, you know, on the other hand, like you're saying, if things are good, you might think about them less. Sometimes, though, when things are good, you think about them all the time.
That's true.
That's like that's why it's hard to answer the question.
Okay. Now we are doing a segment. Segments are back, you guys. We got to deal with it. This is a segment from the brain of Justin. Am I allowed to say your last name? No. Justin Smith.
Makes me sound mysterious.
Justin Smith. That could be your name.
Yeah, I work in Intel.
Oh my God, what if it was your name? And then that was a really good, like, red herring.
Good cover. Yeah.
Justin Smith.
It'd be hard to find me.
It would be. Okay, so Justin Smith came up with this segment. Tell him what the segment is.
Dating, high crimes, and misdemeanors.
Yes. Put him in jail.
Shoot him in the head.
Shoot him in the head. Yeah, some of them get corporal punishment.
Yeah.
Some of them just
Capital.
get a slap on the wrist. Capital punishment.
And
What did I
corporal.
say?
Capital punishment is corporal punishment.
To the death.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Tell them who gets a spanking and who's going to die.
Okay, a misdemeanor. So this is from the perspective of a guy.
Oh, I was holding my mic the wrong way, so you probably couldn't hear me. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, from the perspective of a guy, this is a misdemeanor because it's really annoying, but like at the end of the day, I don't think you can get away from it. But when the girl shows up 15 minutes late.
Oh.
Yeah, some of the guilty are here with us.
To our first date, no.
It wasn't that late, but almost every, don't have to be sorry about it. Almost every single first date, the girl's 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
Not 15, but it's like 5 to 10. And it's one of those ones where like at first, I think it's sort of offensive where you're like, oh my God, like I was here 5 minutes early because I was like terrified of being late.
Yeah.
And every single girl was just like, oh my God, like I was getting ready and I got done with work. And it's like, yeah, no, me neither. I actually like, I just live at this restaurant. So I'm glad to see you, Stephanie. And it's not, you can get paroled for sure. Probation's a possibility.
Okay.
I might even date you.
Is there, you might even date me. Can I give a rebuttal?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is what I'm going to say. Showing up to a date, especially a first date, especially coming from the internet first date, is objectively so much more vulnerable as a girl. You have no idea what you're showing up to. Your physical safety can be put in danger. Your boundaries and, you don't know what kind of sexual fucking predator you're walking into. Like, it's vulnerable for both parties, but it is objectively more of a risk for every single girl. And the times that I have shown up early to a date as a girl and been waiting, just sitting like a fucking sitting duck. What's the phrase?
Yeah, sitting duck.
Sitting duck, waiting to be shot in the head. Like it is all, I will say it's a horrible feeling. And that's not why I showed up late, but I will say showing up early felt unacceptable for the amount of vulnerability I already felt.
That's fair. I mean, honestly, I think we can say then time served, no probation.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I do think though, I think that your point is well taken. I find that much less of an excuse once someone hits the post 10-minute mark.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I think the middle ground would be that I should just be on time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, or even 5 minutes late is fine. It does start to get as the guy, when you're there at minute 14, it starts to get embarrassing.
No,
where
I
you're
know.
All right, so
I know.
the waiter comes over.
Did I do that? Did I make you wait 15 minutes?
No, you didn't. No.
Oh, okay.
It genuinely was within the first time.
I showed up to our first date, I remember, and I was kind of in a giddy mood, and there was the hostess at the front of the restaurant. And I walked in and I was looking for my table and I was like, oh, I think it's under Justin. And I was just feeling giddy and sociable. And I was like, I'm on a date. I'm on a first date.
So cute.
And they were like, oh, he's cute. He's cute. And I don't know, the hostess was all about it.
I do love that.
Yeah, I always like telling them. I like telling the host when I show up on a first date because then anytime you walk to the bathroom, they're like, "How's it going?" And they're kind of looking.
Kind of fun, yeah.
They're kind of looking out for you, which feels nice.
Yeah. Well, and there's a little bit of a conspiratorial thing too, in a fun way, where it's they know and you get that extra smile with service.
Yeah, it's you get a friend there. It's yeah.
Although on the other hand, they reverse that. I think the guy version is funny if you have a male server and you're sitting there waiting, and it's are we going to be joined by another party? And there's kind of a smirk. And it's funny seeing the opposite.
Just my own hand.
Yeah. The guy version is much more the waiters are kind of huh.
Yeah. Oh, baby. But I agree. It's rude.
Yeah. And there's that's why it's a misdemeanor. It's
Okay.
It clearly wouldn't stop me from dating someone. But it's once you get past that 10-minute mark, it does start to become kind of
Yeah.
all right, do you value my time?
Also, if you're showing up late every single date.
True too.
That's bad. Okay. I'll allow it. Next.
No, you're next.
Oh, I don't have any.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, I guess
you don't have to.
I guess I didn't think about it.
Oh.
No, I can
Sorry,
come up. I
have
can
others.
come up with a million things that are offensive to me.
Yeah.
Something that's offensive.
Is it a high offense or a low offense?
Ooh, I'll say pretty commonplace high offense. These dudes that wouldn't ask me a single question.
Terrible.
Wouldn't ask me a single question. And that was gobsmacking to me because there's this fucking idea that women are the talkers and women can't stop talking. I'm like, y'all, I haven't said a single word. At the end of the date, I wanted to quiz them. I wanted to be like, first of all, these fuckers.
Name one person I know.
No. I wanted to be like, name
would.
one thing you learned about me. Name
Oh.
one thing you learned about me. And these hoes would ask me on a second date. They wanted more dates. Name one thing you learned, bitch. You didn't do the reading.
Yeah. That is such a good one, because I would be totally fucking offended. I would be totally offended too. Same thing. Where
Either
it's
way,
like,
yeah.
I think the guy version of that is like when you're texting and like you kind of are tasked with entertaining, and so like a lot of guys have like a performance basically that they do. I'm surprised that that's a thing with guys.
It is weird. I think I fed into it a bit because I can host a conversation well. I can, I'll ask the follow-up questions. I'll express interest. I'll be like, tell me more about that. I end up being their fucking therapist.
I wonder too, sometimes
had
they're just trying to satisfy the other person. Or it's sort of like, oh, she wants to talk.
Oh my God, that did not seem like it. I just love the sound of their voices. But
Gross.
I did eventually learn to reel that back. Like, if I wasn't really interested, don't act interested.
Yeah.
Like, it's simple, but I think a lot of girls do a lot of that. Or a lot of people do a lot of that caretaking.
Yeah, or even just like the papering over like the gaps or like the problems where it's like, listen, if this is a problem on the first date, yeah, it's probably going to be a problem later. It probably means other things,
Yeah.
It's like if this person doesn't care enough, well, you probably have a pretty good idea of why they're there.
Oh my God, speaking of what things you talk about and first dates and texting and topics early on, a lot of people asked about how Justin feels about the ghosts, the haunting, the phantoms that are in my apartment, but they've also followed me my whole life, and it's fair to assume that they will follow me for the rest of my life. And Justin pointed out the very first thing we ever messaged each other about was about the ghosts.
I think that I asked you, I think the first question was something like, what's the most amazing thing that you've ever seen? Or like, what's something like...
It was close. I had a prompt on my Hinge profile. It said like, I'm looking for, they have these prompts, and I wrote someone to protect me from ghosts. Oh. And you asked me about like my paranormal, the first time you messaged me.
Yeah.
You asked me about my paranormal experience.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I do. Okay, so I remember like the vibe of the conversation rather than like the actual like literal parts of it.
Well, after that, you asked me about like, what's the most amazing thing I've seen?
Yeah.
It was such a cute question.
Well, because I think like when you talked about ghosts, like I haven't had any ghost experiences. And so I kind of like tried to bring it over to like, okay, a natural phenomena where like, there are these little like balls of lightning that people see sometimes. They're little orbs. And
I was like, yeah, I'm not talking about that.
I'm talking about the real ghost.
I'm talking about the real ghost. Also, we're sitting on the couch right now. Your hand is on my head while he talks to me about the ghost. You're protecting me right now.
And these are maternal ghosts. Moms love me. It's fine.
Yeah, they love Justin. The ghosts love
I
Justin.
loved when Jess was talking about like the haunting. She's like, there's a very maternal energy. And you're like, well, that's why.
Yeah, they love Justin. Okay, give me another crime.
Do you want to... Okay, so we'll jump to a serious one? Or...
Yeah, give me a serious one. Or you have another dirty, quick and dirty.
No, I think the others are a little more involved. Okay, this one is a guy dating crime.
Okay.
Never perpetrated, but I've heard this, and I love reading Reddit dating stories. So I've seen this on Reddit. I've seen it like with female friends, and I've heard, in various situations that this is a thing. I think of the crime as sort of this character who is a heartbroken heartthrob, where there are qualifiers to this, but this is the person who, like, 2 or 3 dates in, potentially after you've been intimate, explains to you, I'm actually not really sure what I want. I'm dealing with a relationship right now, just ended. And it's like, well, that's convenient.
That's convenient now that you got what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, so like right now, like I don't know exactly what I want, but he does know that he would like to continue sleeping with you, and maybe he could figure it out. And that's I think that's like the crime to me, is the implicit, like, it's always something that could resolve.
Yeah,
it's a heartbreak.
This carrot dangling in front of you,
and maybe they do it on purpose, maybe they don't. Regardless, like, It's like, okay, well, like, work is tough right now, and like I'm really grinding. I don't have space. They'll use like keywords where it's like, I don't know if I have the bandwidth or the space right now, like be in a relationship, but I think you're really cool.
Which to me, it's like, I don't care if they're fucking with me or not. If you tell me you don't have the bandwidth to be in a relationship right now, get out the door, dog.
And it's very different to me from like this wouldn't be my thing now, but like if you from the get-go are like, I don't want a relationship, I just want a casual thing. That's very different than leading someone into like 4 or 5 dates, and then it's kind of like it's like a revelation where this is actually a soft spot for you. It's your vulnerability. Your vulnerability is you need women to hook up with to heal you. Yeah. You need conjugal teddy bears, and it's like
when it's almost said as a vulnerability.
Yeah, it's like maybe he'll get better. I mean, and if it's on purpose, he's a horrific person, and if it's actually true. What are you doing, man? Like there's another guy. It's like, you shouldn't be dating.
Right.
Or you should be telling people up front. It's like, I don't respect you. This is a bad person.
Yeah. I think the responsibility everybody has to get clear.
Other people shouldn't be helping you figure out what you want in life in terms of like, indirectly they might, but like other people aren't your tool to like, advance through life or like to spend time or to heal yourself.
Right.
Because then they're just a tool. They're a means to an end, and you're not treating them as people.
Yeah. Are you giving them intention and energy or not?
Yeah. It's either a manipulative technique or it's somebody who knows themselves so little that they're hurting other people and they're not respectable.
Wow.
Shoot him in the head.
Shoot him in the Oh, shoot him in the head.
Oh, this is a capital crime.
Okay, shoot him in the head.
Because it's like, especially as you get older, if you're 20 and you do this, all right, you're an idiot. You're basically a child. If you're 30, I don't know, man. You're 40, okay.
That's a bad nasty.
It's a bad look.
It's a bad nasty.
Bad look.
Say that.
That's a bad nasty.
Okay, give me one more.
Okay.
Of your choosing.
Of my choosing. Oh, this is another felony. And I've encountered a couple of these people.
Oh, no. Is it me?
No. Is it you? No.
Is it me?
No, is it me?
I did it.
No, you didn't. Stop admitting. No, I think this one, I wonder, it probably goes in both directions, but I guess as a guy, I only see it in one. Within like dates 1 to 10, if you're trying to change somebody, like to get them to do one thing differently or like change one thing about themselves, to either like change religion or change, which was the thing, to change career path, to change something where it's like, you don't even know me. Actually, I was actually told by somebody that I would have been perfect had I had a different job. And it was like, yeah, okay. And she's like, well, like, would you ever consider it? And it's like, absolutely not now. I wouldn't have before, but I definitely won't now.
That's wild. Within 10 dates.
The one that I'm thinking of is the 5th or 6th date.
Wow. She said that sentence.
Yeah.
You'd be perfect
if you had X, Y, and Z jobs.
Wow.
And I'm like, right. But first off, I don't want those jobs. And secondly, I don't. So... Yeah. And she's like, would you ever consider it?
Oh, my God.
Like, who would respect a person who, like, 5 dates in is like, you're right, Rebecca. I actually do want to go into law. So, like, That
makes me think so little of that person to 100%. Be like, okay, so you're saying you really like who I am, but the job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then don't date me. Wow. Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
No, it was a thing.
I believe it. I believe that was a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a thing for me too, and I just don't even know.
It could be. I don't know if a guy would directly say it, because this was more of a husband shopping situation where like I felt like by the end of it, it was like, oh, like there's a checklist somewhere, and I'm not hitting a certain number of boxes, right. And so she wants me to hit that box.
We could get you there.
Same person, another date thing. It was, I really like you, and I'd like to continue seeing you, but I don't think it's going to be serious. It's like, all right, well, bye. And the same person then got livid and was like, did you think that I meant? And I was like, yeah, I think that's what you meant.
The fuck else could that mean?
Yeah. And then got really mad and was like, wow. And then dressed me down and was like, yeah, okay.
She wanted to use you for your body.
Thank you.
That's selfish. Justin, that's selfish that you didn't want to share your body with people who wanted it.
That's true. I didn't even think of it that way. I guess like I'm the one who committed the crime.
Yeah, shoot you in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw, dating in DC.
Okay, we got to wrap up this dang podcast, y'all. Well, should we end it with a troll? Someone's up in here trolling you.
Yeah, okay.
One Abby Newhouse, editor of our podcast, wrote in with a troll. She said, question for Justin, tips for working out your forearms.
Okay. Abby, this is not trolling me. Like, I'm so glad you asked. Forearms are like, they're hard to train. They're very important.
First of all, this is not a visual podcast, so let me just do a little audio of Justin's forearms. I think you can hear them.
No.
Listen, shush.
That's them.
They're pretty thick.
But
that's the sound of thick with two C's.
With 3 C's.
3 C's.
I mean, honestly, so I know you're not actually asking. In reality,
I'm just going to answer.
Reverse grip curls, and also like sit down on a bench and do curls just with your wrists, from the wrists, with a very heavy weight, with your forearms balanced on your thighs. Incredible. You will not believe the thickness that you'll see, Abby.
Incredible. Abby, you better come to our next meeting with those hams. Those arm hams. Thicked up. Okay. I think we did it.
Yeah, we did.
How do you feel about this?
I feel pretty good. It was fun. I did a lot of times I kind of forgot we're podcasting.
Yeah.
Which I think is the point, hopefully.
How do you feel about us? Do you think it's changed us?
Everything changes us.
Oh my God,
We are growing constantly.
That's true. Okay, well, I think it was good. I think I was weird for a bit.
Yeah, I think we both got into it.
Yeah, I think you were weird at times too.
No.
Yeah. And thank you so much for being on my podcast. I was being silly, but thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Yeah.
It was really special.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm a star.
Okay. Do you want to do the outro? Come on, do the outro.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter.
No, what?
I said that's the biggest
I should. I'm sure I'm blocked from Twitter.
You handled the sign off because I did the intro.
No, you didn't. Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you did.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, you can
You
find
never
us.
listen to me. You hear me, but you don't listen.
You can find us on Instagram, Not For Everyone Pod, not the number 4, Everyone Pod. Leave us a review. Write a review about Justin. Write a review about his forearms.
Please don't.
We're going to have more guests on the pod coming up. Hot guests, sexy guests, guests that keep it tight. That's our requirement for guests. We've already had Abby Newhouse, our editor, and we've had Ryan, I don't know his last name, Justin's boyfriend. We've had Justin... What?
Justin's boyfriend.
Oh, Jess's boyfriend. Jess's boyfriend. No, your boyfriend hasn't been on yet. But anyway, everybody's keeping it tight. Everyone's keeping it hot. And we're going to keep that going. Okay, bye. Justin, say goodbye into your microphone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Include that.
I want to get comfy. We're not really looking at each other. That's my only objection.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
We can move over. Abby, fix this in post. Hey, Abby.
Hey, Abby.